for the mesmerizing cultural performance, which beautifully demonstrated the low country dance of Sri Lanka. Our next segment invites a distinguished guest whose insights add depth to our discussion. I'm honored to welcome Professor Kanagasingam, Vice Chancellor of the University of Vavuniya. Sorry, I apologize for this. A Vice Chancellor of the Eastern University of Sri Lanka to share his perspectives on our theme.
Prof. Evolutionary, co-chair of the conference, and other co-chairs. Chief guest of this conference, guest of honors, special guest, session chairs, and delegates from all over the world, ex-vice chancellors of the Eastern University, Emeritus Prof. Kanagasingam, and Prof. Arai, other delegates from Sri Lankan universities, and peace-building practitioners and researchers. Other participants, very good morning to you. I would like to some experiences through the peace building from eastern part of the country. I believe talking about peace building, about artificial intelligence is evolving from yesterday onwards. So I do not touch on that. But I would like to give a few facts or some information about the process of peace building in our country. You know, Sri Lanka is facing a lot of challenges in the process of peace building due to the last 3 decades war. I believe with my pleasure welcome to you all for this tremendous, very important events. I would say this is the first conference in the country sharing these very important thematic areas. Especially the eastern part of the country, I am from Vice Chancellor of the Eastern University. It is located in the eastern part, central part of the eastern in particular. Eastern province is having 3 major districts, Chuntamale, Batticaloa and Ampara. These all 3 communities are living together, Sinhalese, Muslims and Tamils, with other respective communities, Burghers and indigenous communities. Actually, this peace building process started from different angles, different corners, and different agencies. Ultimately, still the country is in the process of peace building, even after 3 decades ago, or maybe another decades, we face a lot of challenges. Especially the youth. They are not aware about this conflict. They are not aware of the wars. But the consequence of the war, the consequence of this conflict, or younger generations, they are enjoying right now. That is very sympathetic situations. They were not the partner on the process of the war. Even they don't know any stakeholders who were involved in the war. But we are the academic administrator, especially the researchers and the peace building people all over the world. This research findings should educate to our youth, especially our younger generations, the experience of the conflicts, experience of this peace process, what was happening in the country. If I take one simple example, universities, the three communities are living together in a hostel. The three community students are living together. The staff, they are working together. Until such a moment, once the election is coming, politicians are making some emotional wording to get the vote. So the people are getting some unsmoothness, sometimes they are getting unfish. So between the communities, between the religions, between some individuals. I believe the researchers should focus how could they able to develop real peace, especially among the Jews. We have a good examples the last 2 years ago. The activists, what happened to the country through the social media, influence on social media, the country had a lot of experiences. That means the activists sometimes, they could do anything, everything. So the universities should have a certain roles to developing the peace building. I could not see any university having a degree program in peace educations or peace building. Certain university, I hope they have some subjects. In the Eastern University, we have a subject in fish medicines to the medical students, as well as we have a subject in communications, non-violence communications. Those are some theoretical subjects. To make them into practical, they make them into more realistic. I think the experience of this outcome of this past decades, war and the conflict, should be reflected through the research. Therefore, I won't take more time. I believe this outcome of this research conference will create some space to our younger generations to think about the consequence of the or importance of this peace building, especially the Harmony Center, University of Vavuniya, promoting number of activities. I believe their contribution among the staff and the students, especially developing social, cultural, educational, as well as scholarly activities to concentrating on the peace. So in this line, Eastern University also can and for the University of Vavuniya to develop any base to create a peace among the young generations. That is the future perspective of the country. Thank you very much for the participants.
Thank you, sir. I would like to please hold for a minute for a token of appreciation, and I'd like to invite Professor Mangaleshwaran, Vice Chancellor of University of Vavuniya, to give the overture. Thank you, sir. Continuing this intellectual journey, we are privileged to have with us Professor Groff, Director of Global Options and Evolutionary Futures Consulting. I now invite Professor Groff to share her valuable insights with us.
Hello, everyone again. I want to thank Rajiv and all the local hosts for putting on a lovely conference for all of us. I just want to share a few little words of wisdom. So first of all, we're living in an age where we have many existential crises facing humanity. And it's not just artificial intelligence, that's one big disruptive technology, but we also have climate change, and species extinction on the planet. And we also have still dangers of nuclear weapons use. And then I think one of the biggest challenges facing humanity is also, can we come together across all of our diversity and work together to solve and find solutions and regulations in some cases for all these different challenges that humanity is facing today. And I would say that, in many countries there's a right-wing sort of nationalist, populist, strongman movements happening, including in many democratic countries. And that divides society and makes it very more difficult to come together, which is what we really need to do. The second thing I want to say is diversity is a strength, not a weakness. And I'm interested to come up and think about how do we create a holistic, integrated view of peace for the 21st century, drawing on the wisdom of all of our different traditions, not one or the other. So, because we need to come together as a human family, and we need to see diversity as a strength because different traditions can bring different things to the table of humanity from their own experience. Yesterday I was thinking, I talked with Joey about this, that, if we look at all of our different cultural traditions, which exist within different environmental situations and challenges and terrain, what is the wisdom that each of our traditions have learned over all their existence they can now bring and present to humanity as a whole, that we can learn from each other. So I think that's important, and I want to just end by, if you look at it, I'm interested in holistic views of peace from different traditions, but if you look at indigenous traditions, how do we bring together indigenous Eastern and Western traditions? So there's a tendency of indigenous people, if they talk about how do we create peace in the world, they start with peace with the earth. Right? The earth is sacred, it's our mother, it's the source of all life, we need to protect it. If you talk to people from Eastern spiritual wisdom, cultural traditions, they always start with inner peace. We have to find peace within ourselves to radiate out to the world, because how can we have peace in the world if we can't find it within ourselves? And if you start with Western traditions, they are, Western cultures are sort of activist cultures, and they start with trying to change the external world and create like social justice and things like that. So what I would say is we need them all. We need to honor them all. We need to learn to listen to each other and learn from our different traditions, and then be able to come together as a human family, honoring both our unity and our diversity. Then we have good hope for the future. Thank you.
Thank you, madam. I would like to stay for token of appreciation. And if you present, I would like to invite Professor Aslam Khan, Mahatma Gandhi, Central University of India, to give the present to her. Before we proceed to our next keynote session, let us once again immerse ourselves in the magic of art with another captivating cultural performance which will illustrate the Tamil culture. The dance is called in Tamil as Sembu Nagada, which is a vessel that we are using to provide the water to the visitors who are coming. And this is a traditional dance, still they are following in the Tamil villages. When they are getting together for any festival, this is to demonstrate their happiness and being together. So let's see how we are doing this to demonstrate the dance. A round of applause for the incredible performance, and it was quite indulging for us. The heart of our morning lies in the forthcoming keynote address by Professor Tatsushi Arai, Professor of Peace and Conflict Studies at Kent State University, Ohio, USA. His insights into digital transformation and artificial intelligence for sustaining peace with democracy promise to be enlightening. So, the stage is yours.
Leadership, conference organizers, participants, and dear students in the back, the leaders of the future. Most welcome. And thank you so much for this opportunity. I am standing because I need the help of some pictures, the visuals. So I'm going to just begin by thank you. A little bit about who I am. So I am a Japanese citizen. I go by Katz because Tatsushi is a tongue twister to English speakers mostly. And I have been a scholar practitioner of international conflict resolution and peace building for 27 years. The starting point of my work was in Rwanda, a country in which I lived for 2 years post-genocide to support the reconciliation process. And since then, I have mostly worked in different parts of Asia Pacific, so I see some faces in the room of the people I encountered in the practical contexts. The Middle East is Palestine, Syria, Lebanon, Jordan, Oman, and Africa, in particular Nigeria with respect to Boko Haram, the Rwandan reconciliation process. I'm invited to work on the inter-clan reconciliation in Somalia. And I actually share a little bit of what I do because it cannot be separated from what I am going to say. And you can clearly see that I am not a technology expert. I come from the depth of the practice and a bit of research and education on international peace building. But as I spent especially a decade in Myanmar with respect to the Rohingya issue and other issues, I was struck by the power of social media, having enormous capacity to polarize, also to bring people together. And that same experience was echoed in my Japan-China dialogue work among other places. Then I actually decided that as a peace researcher and practitioner, this whole notion of how the social media, cyberspace, and quantum computing in the age of artificial intelligence, what role it plays. So today, the title of my talk is International Peacemaking in the Age of Artificial Intelligence toward a theory of contextual transformation. Contextual transformation. Even if you forget everything about what I said today, if you could just start thinking about what this term means, contextual transformation, I believe my presentation is going to be a success. So, essentially, here's what I'm going to do. The purpose of my talk today is to share with you my ongoing action research initiative, whose aim is to develop concrete methodology of conflict resolution dialogue in the age of artificial intelligence and technostructural shifts. So this talk is about methodology development. I want you to be just aware. Secondly, the area of peace work in which I do activities is conflict resolution and peace building, which means that I am a mediator. I advise civil society, sometimes train diplomats, the government. I had a stint with the United Nations. So much of the work is really about bringing people together, facilitating dialogue, mentoring, advising the peace process for support. So with that said, I acknowledge that there are so many other areas of peace work that I'm not covering, so bear with me. And the particular context I am choosing is 19 years of the work I have done to bring together civil society delegates from mainland China, Taiwan, and the United States. And this is a dialogue process that started in 2005 in the East Coast of the United States. Every year, we bring it together confidentially between Taiwanese and Chinese, sometimes from people from Hong Kong, about how to design dialogue, facilitate, mobilize. And this way we mobilize now over 10,000 people. So now Taiwanese and Chinese are co-facilitating those dialogues together. And the Asian dialogues are facilitated in Chinese Mandarin, the US and North American dialogues are facilitated in English, meaning that the Chinese and Taiwanese people comfortable in English will come. The significance of my talk to me is that in the age of artificial intelligence, that conventional way of conflict resolution, bringing people together, listening to each other, issuing proposals for change, in my view, is a little obsolete. The social context that shifts because of AI and other technological structure shifts are so massive that we really need a different thinking. So what is that different thinking? We do ask a question, and we have a lot of conferences, but we don't really have a lot of clear methodology as to how to do it. So last year, with my strong suggestion, straight off, change the methodology of a dialogue. We used to have a 45 to 50 hour in-depth dialogue. Now we are having a 20-hour dialogue. But using part of the 20-hour process, we take 3 hours of 20 hours to go deep into AI. What I see as global challenges. I'm going to describe it in a moment. And ask those Taiwanese, Chinese, and US delegates to think about the potential impact of AI on the future of cross-strait relations. Does that make sense? So the methodology comes from the participants, not from me. And then every year, for every single dialogue we do, we actually elicit input from them. Then we kind of shape collective views of how to deal with the AI challenges. So with that clearly said, I also need to say one thing. As you might have noticed in the intro I gave you, I work in very deep-rooted big conflicts. Conflicts that don't see any resolution whatsoever. So being engaged in 20 years, 10 years, this is quite normal. Going back again and again and again, that's what your Vavuniya did. So, and in those contexts, the conflict parties, myself, don't see any way out. Then we think of, if there is conflict resolution, when does the underlying premise of this changelessness actually change? And we always ask that question. I wanted to answer that question, at least in theory. At this age of AI, structural technological shifts appears to give me some insight into how the ground upon which conflict sits could shift, and theorization is going to facilitate. So with that said, my presentation focuses on the following points. One is to share with you a little bit of a macro-historical view of AI and other technological innovations. Second is to describe contextual transformation as a framework for conflict analysis and resolution. I'll define this in a moment. And a description of conversation exercise focusing on AI's impact on cross-strait relations, Taiwan, China, and US. And a straight-up participants' observation of AI's impact on cross-strait relations. And conclusions and implications for the broader field to which we belong. Permit me to go really macro to start with. For my friend, this is a truncated history of humanity since humanity was born 200 million years ago. And if you trace all those changes, behavior, modernity, agriculture, invention of writing, money, scientific revolution, industrial revolution, nuclear weapons, and all the way to the invention of the internet, it is my contention that the artificial intelligence and the list of challenges Linda just enumerated together would constitute a seismic change that humanity usually experiences in terms of millennia. But the challenge of 21st century today is that AI together with challenges of equivalent magnitude are happening simultaneously at an accelerated pace. So when I say global challenges, I am referring to the shifts that have three properties. Number one, global in scope, global. Number two, unprecedented and accelerated pace of change. Things move so fast and faster and faster. Number three, deep penetration of impact. Meaning that everybody now has a mobile phone. The connectivity that's enabled by everybody has a mobile phone has been unprecedented in 200 million years of human history. Globalization has been going on forever. But that level of the trinity of the three factors I mentioned, through such things as quantum computing and the use of AI, is unprecedented. Now, to explain my main point of today's presentation, contextual transformation, I want to introduce to you what I see as a very useful cause and effect relationship for peace and conflict work. Now, I'm just taking an example of traffic accident. Everybody is familiar with traffic accident. And if you ask why this traffic accident happens, you think of an immediate cause. Poor driving, poor weather condition for that day, unpaved road, and so on and so forth. So when we think of why this particular traffic accident happened, we think of those immediate causes, yeah? But then we have the capacity to zoom out a little bit and think of proximate causes. What I mean by this is to ask what are some of the regularities and patterns in social relations that keep generating traffic accidents like this. So for example, if the government or society's driving test is continuously poor, or people are asked or forced to work in a sleep-deprived manner all the time, those underlying conditions have the capacity to keep generating one accident after another of this type. It's not the exact same accident, but the kind of accidents that we see. Allow me to go far more macro, background causes. One can argue, the philosopher can argue, that traffic accidents can happen because combustion engines were invented. The oil was discovered, and the human capacity to use oil was discovered. That logic is not incorrect, but it is so far removed from this particular traffic accident that it's not that helpful. Having said that, in Hindu, Buddhist, and all those broad worldviews of cause and effect, that kind of causality is still legitimate. Now, why do I talk about this? Because I want to talk about, finally, the theory I'm actually proposing, which is contextual transformation. Conventionally, people like me who do mediation conflict resolution, we are trained to look at each one of the parties. The light is not going. A, B, C. And each one of the parties has an agency. The capacity and will to make action, to make decisions and act on those decisions. So, according to Milton and other prominent thinkers, conflict resolution has to do with understanding the goals as well as needs, seeing the goal incompatibility between the parties, finding creative ways to overcome the contradictions, make them compatible. It is my contention that in the age of AI, and the technical structure shifts that I'm going to elaborate, this way of thinking alone is not adequate. We need another layer that's complementary. It's a context of communication facilitated by AI and other things, and the context itself will shift. It was that context that gives us a sense of meaning, the patterns of interaction, and so on and so forth. that made the original source of the conflict feel natural and inevitable. Over time, with AI and other technostructural shifts, I suspect this context itself will shift. It is like, you go to the airport, there's a moving sidewalk. You start on a moving sidewalk, you're still, but the sidewalk moves. By the time you knew it, you reached your destination. So, what I'm trying to get at for context transformation is, it is a set of macro historical shifts independent of intentional conflict intervention efforts such as mediation, but accelerated by purposeful, well-designed interventions. Macro shifts, historical shifts, independent of conflict intervention efforts such as mediation, but accelerated by well-designed intentional shifts. So that is my definition of context transformation. The rest of my presentation is an elaboration on this. Okay, so I'm going to make you all the participants in the China, Taiwan, US dialogue. You may say, no, I came from Sri Lanka, I don't have anything to do with it. But bear with me, if the Taiwan-Strait conflict is not your conflict, then just think of your own conflict. Anything is okay. There will be a subtle difference between how I'm going to talk about the Taiwan-Strait and what your conflict is. But I suspect that the basic framework is still evocative. So in the cross-strait dialogue sessions we run, we actually present this diagram here and says, these things are context, background causes I explained, and the proximate causes. What are the background and proximate causes at play in cross-strait relations? If we brainstorm together. So for example, artificial intelligence, nuclear biological weapons of mass destruction, global conflict and competition in outer space, life science innovations, DNA modification, etc., and global information networks and rise of dataism, shifts in democratic structures within and across countries and regions. As you know, China, Taiwan, Korea, Japan, population decline is growing very seriously. And we know that Africa continent is going to continue to have a rise in population. Within 50 to 60 years, Africa will be the continent for us. Are we ready for that? It's a really different way of thinking that forces us to think of how to resolve the cross-strait conflict and future waves and mutations of global pandemics. Climate change and environmental degradation, the possibility of global energy transition. The key, as Linda said, is the synergy between them. It's not just AI. Each one of them are global challenges with accelerated pace, global reach, and penetration to many individuals. So in a straight-up dialogue, we look not only at artificial intelligence, but after we talk about artificial intelligence, we talk, for example, about global energy shift in relation to the cross-strait conflict. So I'm going to just tell you just a little bit about the method of incorporating AI awareness into a cross-strait dialogue. So here are the instructions I share with the participants. Let's enhance awareness of selected global challenges such as AI's impact with far-reaching consequences on human lives. Explore the implications of challenges, for example, AI's impact, for each one of the societies involved in and for the long-term future of cross-strait relations. And contextualize cross-strait relations in the global challenges so that the participants can apply their historical awareness of the coming contextual shifts to cross-strait conflict engagement and resolution. The term engagement means that you stay engaged in a condition of non-resolution, removing all the utopia things. Stay actively engaged in a condition of conflict non-resolution, but still create conditions in which future resolution becomes possible. So straight up is not a utopian exercise here. We acknowledge that this is not going to change, but we mobilize people who engage in the context, regardless of whether there is a resolution. Then we also do steps toward resolution. Okay, so for a discussion about, 2-hour discussion about, let's say, AI, you need to give a little bit of a reminder of what AI does for cross-relations. So I focus on three things so that all the participants can kind of stimulate their thinking. The first challenge is weaponization. However, before I talk about the challenges, I don't want to just depict a gloomy picture only. AI innovations have a huge positive impact on education, health, humanitarian support, development, agriculture, energy, climate change research, as you know, you name it. It's a huge leap of progress. But at the same time, the negatives are also massive. So by talking about challenges, I am not necessarily advocating for only a dark picture here. I want to have like a Chinese wisdom of yin and yang, darkness in light, light in darkness. But to the extent that this is a conflict resolution exercise, we are compelled to talk about some of the challenges. All right. So weaponization, what are the challenges? Perpetual state of hostility, largely independent of public scrutiny. As we talk in this room, there is an AI-based warfare going on in multiple countries. And AI-assisted cyber aggression that expands the role of high-tech companies and contributes to the decline of state monopoly of security, as we know. Erosion of traditional balance of power and strategic parity notions. And these events lead to Secretary General of the United Nations calling for UN-sponsored global pact of conduct that especially seeks to regulate AI's weaponization, particularly on nuclear weapons delivery. Now, AI also has a massive impact on information, disinformation. Because we are talking about Americans and Chinese and Taiwanese, I'm going to just highlight a little bit about America. Adult Americans spend average of half their waking time in front of the screens. And the fake news spreads 6 times the speed of regular news. And the case study that I give to the Chinese and US participants is the 2016 US presidential election, whereby there is a small town named Velez in Macedonia. It's a declining town where the computer guru recruited the fellow computer enthusiasts, and they created massive amount of posts, divisive posts, mainly support of Donald Trump. Then every evening they post, they create the fake plurality of arguments, and they are known to have created massive impact on the US voters' perception. Now, the final AI challenge I'm going to just talk with the cross-strait participants is something called global cloud system. Now, I'm taking pictures from taxi drivers in Shanghai. And according to one estimate, 47% of jobs in USA are at risk by 2034 due to AI. What are the jobs we are talking about? We are talking about taxi truck drivers, factory workers, farmers, fishermen, construction workers, cleaners, catering staff, mailman, delivery servicemen, security guard secretaries, interpreters, translators, among others. Then after we stimulate our mind about the challenges, also delve a little deeper into something called the global caste system. This is a quote from a Homo Deus celebrated book by a historian named Arai. Traditionally, life has been divided into 2 main parts, a period of learning followed by a period of working. Very soon, this transitional model will become utterly obsolete due to AI, and the only way for humans to stay in the game will be to keep learning throughout their lives, and to invent themselves repeatedly. Many, if not most humans, may be unable to do so. Basically, this phenomenon is what Arai calls the global caste system, which is characterized by a widening gap between the unemployed increasingly irrelevant masses, so to speak, and highly skilled, increasingly relevant elite. These have huge implications for not only cross-strait relations, but other contexts. So, after going through some of the challenges, the Chinese, Taiwanese, US participants seated separately, they discuss among themselves first, within the national groups. What will be the implications of this for the cross-strait conflict and the potential of resolution? What are the most significant implications of the coming contextual shift for you over the next 20 to 30 years? And what are the most significant implications for your society over the next 20 years and the future of the relationship between you? Okay, so this is where I don't intervene. They discuss based on their own knowledge, for example, China. And the data is emerging from those dialogues, so I don't go very deep, but I will just give you a sense of what those participants say, Chinese, Taiwanese, and Americans. The US participants said something like the decline of the middle class. This information leads to the degradation of democracy, rise of homelessness, and mental health challenges. Some of the Chinese participants emphasize global caste system and flight of talents, including to Taiwan, the rise of populism, increased distrust among the government institutions across the Taiwan Strait. The Taiwanese participants raised questions about erosion of trust in the state and democracy due to disinformation, rise of isolationism, populist leaders. Implications for the relationship between them includes the potential escalation of regional conflict to global conflict in cyberspace. So I'm going to come to a conclusion here. Before I go here, it's not only the AI discussion we have. We talk about global climate, energy transition, and other things, and we talk about the interaction between them. Okay, so I'm coming to a conclusion here. Going beyond the Taiwan Strait, I think 5 realizations, implications are important for the future of our field. Number 1, we must recognize that emerging technological structure shifts will significantly expand interconnectedness and complexity in conflict analysis and resolution. We have to catch up. Second, the theory of contextual transformation offers a framework for understanding complexity and taking action within the macro-historical awareness. I say a little more on this. We must reimagine the role of human agency in international conflict and peacemaking. What do I mean by that? I received my PhD in conflict resolution in 2005. I'm trained in this field proper. I was told that learning from Gandhi be the change you want to see. I still believe in that, totally. But at the same time, the combination of macro global challenges, the macro-economic shifts, is such that I cannot create all those big changes necessary for the transformation of conflict. It is like me being a surfer, looking at the waves coming. Surfer cannot create waves, no. But surfer still has the agency, the choice in terms of when I ride on the waves, how I'm going to ride on the waves. I still have choices. So here, be the change you want to see in the Gandhian maxim is quite important. But to complement that, we need to use cultivated human agency to see the massive changes in their interconnectivity, and then how to become a good agent to read those changes, announce people the nature of the changes, and devise mechanisms to accelerate positive changes, minimize negative changes. This is a little bit of different thinking than traditional conflict resolution methodology that I want to emphasize. Safeguard social space to exercise human consciousness and meaning making in order to regulate the use of intelligence, because generative AI is smart. It can even mimic some of the consciousness. And finally, we need to devise context-specific ways to link background and proximate causes to immediate causes in order to enhance collective capacity to purposely make use of contextual transformation of peacemaking practice and policy making. Because background and proximate causes are very diffuse. You cannot pinpoint that. You remember from the traffic accident. So in Sri Lanka, in Myanmar, in every single context in which you work, we need a lot of peace researchers who can kind of creatively connect those, how those macro background proximate causes relate to the particular triggers, immediate causes. That is the task left to the peace researchers. Thank you very much.
If you have any questions related to this topic.
Questions? Can you take questions?
Yeah. Yes, we can.
Oh, that's good.
I think that would be better.
Okay, because I just wanted to Yes. Wait. Please.
It's a wonderful presentation. It's a wonderful presentation. It's a very wonderful presentation. See, when in the context of agency A to B to C, there is interactions and there is a party C. You are assuming party C and as an A component because A is more automated.
A is automated.
So, the party C you are talking about, which is a new intersection you are bringing for the transformation. Is it an AI engine or you are trying to have a mediation?
Okay, let me just repeat if I understand the question. Assuming A is automated, it's AI run, basically, yeah?
No, see, you are talking about party A, party B,
Yes,
and party C.
yes,
For the party C, you are introducing an agency.
okay.
That agency is what you mean as AI engine, which will be automating the whole set of transformations.
I apologize for the fact that I couldn't catch the last critical phrase of your question. But I understood your question to mean that if you have parties A, B, C, I'm introducing agency to C. But just to clarify the premise, I am seeing the agency.
There is an interaction at the agency C.
Yes.
See, these agents will be an artificial intelligence, right?
No, those are human groups.
Human groups, but the accidents happen so rapidly. So every time a human group can't come in and do that. The AI whole system of AI driving the whole thing is to automate the whole thing. That would be easy for anybody to run.
Okay. So, just to clarify, thank you very much for the question. The visual I was showing about the triangular ABC is a hypothetical three-party context. It's hypothetical, it can be 100 parties to 200 parties, quite typical in international contexts. But each one of them is meant to have agency. And as to the relevance of your question to AI, what I was saying that the context in which those human collectivities, be they nations or states or identity groups interact, could be shaped and reshaped because of AI and techno-structural shifts, among other global challenges. So I am not necessarily foreseeing ABC to be machine run, but I wouldn't deny the fact that possibly there are some people, the leaders of ABC, will be using ChatGPT to think about how to interact with B and C. That is enormously possible happening too. So in that sense, there is a penetration of AI there. Yes.
Congratulations for the wonderful presentation. My curiosity is that you talk about the engagements and the role of artificial intelligence. Role of artificial intelligence. Then when the question comes to the negotiations or the field negotiations in dialogue management that you're talking between three actors, so how the national interests of those particular countries are going to fit in this parameter, so a kind of resolution or the kind of consensus can come for a better understanding.
All right. I think your question is really to the point in terms of the challenge. Question number 5 I was articulating. Now we are entering, unlike let's say about 20 years ago, when I was training my PhD in conflict resolution, where there was no AI, where, as I said, what is your need, what is your goal? Okay, so I stand in the position to you. Is there any way we can transcend this difference? This like a introduction to conflict 101 teaching, which I still do for my students, is so like a rudimentary. So as to your question, we now in the peace negotiation, even at the UN level or government level, we have to introduce a lot of additional questions. For example, during the period of negotiation itself, what would be the introduction of new technology, and what is the pervasive nature of the population using the Facebook and social media? How is popular sentiment shaped as a result of their exposure to a particular news mediated by social media and so on and so forth? So, in that respect, we don't have like a certain answer in terms of how background causes, proximate causes, would relate to or lead to a particular immediate causes. In each one of the contexts, be it the Kashmir, the Taiwan Strait, the Sri Lanka intercommunal relations, societies have really different levels of exposure to those devices, AI use, AI literacy. So there's no cookie cutter approach here, universal approach here. This is where the local peace researchers, in my view, become very important. With their local knowledge, in our society, AI use is like this. So it could become a background and proximate causes to this extent. Therefore, we should inform the conflict parties at this negotiation this way and that way. You saw the Taiwan, China, US relations. Those are three societies where the cyber technology, the mobile phone diffusion is tremendous. So we can assume a very high level of the use. I hope I began to address. This is a question I'm struggling with. I don't necessarily pretend to have a clean answer. I'm still writing on this one, by the way.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for interesting presentation. I have one clarification regarding some future observation. I have read Scandinavian researcher, and they have predicted by 2050, Asia will be a very peaceful, developed region in the world. America, Europe may stay same as today or go down. Africa can be a worse region of this world. So my question is, if it is correct prediction, how do you, what are your observations regarding AI, especially weaponization and so on? You have mentioned many factors. How do you think, if Asia is a very peaceful and developed region in the world, how do you explain by using your personal observation?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that the observer whose opinion you consulted has some thoughtful place. I do not necessarily share that observation. I think whether particular regions from Asia to Africa to the Middle East and the rest become peaceful or not so peaceful depends on human efforts. Plus a lot of unknown factors, of which I listed some. You may have seen: energy shift, climate change, AI, and so on and so forth. So I don't make those observations. But I just make one thing triggered by a thoughtful observation, that is, this global caste system is something that concerns me so much. I was a little wary of invoking this caste metaphor because I'm in South Asia. People's experiences with caste system are very serious. But I think this one, the digital caste system, of a very unprecedented nature, and it has the potential to be real. As I mentioned to you, I work quite intensively in northeastern Nigeria with respect to Boko Haram. Now I'm engaged in Somalia. These are the contexts where people, the nomads and farmers, they have the mobile phones, but their use of the mobile phones is quite limited, usually, to be a consumer. But many of the people in this room come from the societies where the ordinary people, housewives, and for example, midwife, they actually use the AI to their advantage for some sort of marketing devices and so on and so forth. It's a really different level. And the people who can invent new ideas.
Many thanks for your hard job. You insist about 20 years. Focus on one thing. But this thing for China, also American leadership is very important.
Yeah.
Because there are issues. It's the core of the core issues. Yeah. So I'm Chinese. I must ask questions.
Right.
So you is about 20 years. So after your 20 years, it's kind of dialogue meeting. Do you give some suggestion or report to the three parts, whether China, Taiwan, or the American government, to influence their decision in there? Also, I think the second question, very short. You just include the three parts, but recently, Prime Minister of Japan, he said, if Taiwan has some problem, Japan also has some problem. So how do you think in the future? Do you want Japan to be the first part? Thank you.
Okay. I have written quite extensively on cross-strait relations in English, Japanese, some translated to Chinese. And then each year, the 15 delegates, Taiwanese, Chinese, and American, they negotiated with me what they see as a consensus document, usually 7 to 10 pages. And I agree about every single one of the political, security, economic, cultural implications and contributions to peace. It is there, not me, who came up with that. And some of them are translated into simplified and traditional Chinese, so we can share. But as you expertly know, the current situation or current position of Beijing in relation to Taiwan and Hong Kong is such that, is it recorded? Okay, if it's recorded, I say something different. It poses a challenge in terms of how individual Chinese people, and even me as somebody with a Japanese passport, can say. But I think, once we go into an in-depth relationship building, closed door, we can talk quite openly. And I don't aim to make a nation-specific advising, except to say just one thing. I always advocate for human-to-human connection. The conflict across the Taiwan Strait is one unique conflict among many conflicts I have worked on, in which there is no active shooting or fighting going on. And it is usually Chinese people, especially the party members, who say, Taiwanese people, we love you. The bottom line is, we want you to be back to us. Whereas in other contexts in which I work, we hate you, never come close to us. So this is really a building of an understanding of the history and structure in which the division across the Taiwan Strait is built. Also for many Chinese people, it is really about a history, allow me to say, of humiliation, an image of humiliation, if not the fact. And Taiwan going from one China would mean that the oneness is challenged. So we have a lot of expansion exercises, timeline exercises, and so on and so forth, that get into the inner depth of the feeling. And our movement is to interact with other movements in East Asia to create a groundswell of connectivity. So it's a struggle. We spent only 20 years. We look for the next 20 years, and then we'll talk again.
Thank you, Professor, for the diverse perspectives we have encountered through your speech, and I kindly invite you back on the stage for a token of appreciation And I invite Mrs. Vavuniya, convener of APPRA Conference, to present the momentum.